What is going on, everybody? I'm Retro Brett, and welcome to the only podcast on the internet where I invite my mortal enemy on for an episode.
Subarashi.
Not cool, man.
Yeah.
Not cool.
Subarashi. You all know
When
me.
did this turn into an anime episode?
Don't worry
From
about
the
it.
second I hit
When was it
record.
not?
Yeah. Anyways, yeah, you guys know. I've been here. You know. Hi.
Yeah, you.
Then I am that person that is.
Oh yeah,
also
we
here.
have Ben back. Yeah.
Yeah, Ben's on. Yeah.
I'm that random guy that shows up sometimes and just
Goddamn right he's on this podcast. You were right, he is.
And also, if you hadn't gathered before, we got a guest on today. It's NostalgiaCop from the YouTube channel of the same name.
What's happening, guys? NC here.
Yeah, and
Promoting his new Netflix special.
his new Netflix special, NostalgiaCop across the country.
Nostalgia
Well-
Cop does America.
Yeah. The one where he goes to various states and breaks into people's homes to read them fan fiction at night.
Brutal.
oof,
Devastated.
mega
Sacrilege.
oof.
No,
Exactly.
yeah, I wanna hear a little bit about you guys' history. I'm actually pretty curious to know more about it. Like when, like
Basically,
you know,
diss tracks.
yeah, I want to
I
know.
just summed it all
Tell-
up
tell-
there.
Tell us. We need to know that sweet lore about you guys.
Do you want the quick version, or do you want the 45-minute take up the whole podcast episode without even realizing version? Because I can do both.
Give me the short version, just for people who don't know what happened.
Yeah, all right. I'll put this out there. Okay, so NostalgiaCop is a guy that I somewhat knew in freshman year, and I was like, I'm gonna do a thing about this guy because I don't like his YouTube stuff, and like he's cringy or whatever. And revisiting those videos that I made about him, I was equally as shit. Like, I honestly cannot say anything about him back then because that would also be practically saying the same thing about myself. But yeah, I made the video and then he responded with like a 30-minute video, which was really long, exaggerated,
I've seen
and
that
made
one.
me feel
I've seen.
terrible to my core.
I've seen that.
Yeah, it made me feel like a bad person altogether. So I responded to it and I was like, man, I don't think I made it clear enough that I don't hate the guy. I just don't really like his content that much. So in that one, that's where I really kind of reiterated it. And then over time,
Right.
it kind of devolved back into, oh, I hate you, but only in the videos. It's not like an actual hate thing.
Right. Because
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, as we all know, it really do be like that sometimes.
Yeah. For those of you who thought I actually hated him this whole time, don't you feel like an idiot now?
For those of you who thought he actually hated him, little did you realize it's actually a conspiracy between the two to get more views. Because we
Yeah.
all know that beef sells on YouTube.
Do you don't even realize that is legitimately what we were doing the whole time. I mean, he wasn't really as in on it. Like the whole time I was like, I'm gonna make
Oh,
fun
yeah.
of this guy's channel. And
Yeah. He's totally in on it, but he's not in the slightest in on it. Are you
Yeah,
guys still reading me?
Yeah, I can
I-
hear you.
Okay, just making sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Yeah, he just wasn't aware. But anyways, yeah. Ben, how have you been? I haven't talked to Ben. How have you been?
Yeah, I've been doing fine, playing stuff for D&D, playing a new game that I found today. You gotta be a bird.
Right.
Great.
Right.
I like birds. Birds are great.
Birdman.
My
Right.
my Steam name is
Bird.
Birdfax McGee.
Yeah, coming from Bird Facts McGee, I'd say it's a little bit biased, but
I give this game a bird out of bird, which is pretty high score in my book.
Yeah. So, Jacob, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what your channel is? I'll be the interviewer for this podcast.
Well, pretty much it. When I first started out, it was just fan fiction reviews, but as I know now, it was complete and utter shit. So I've stopped that.
Neither
And-
deny.
Well, now I'm starting to try to get into new content. Like, I might try to start talking about some gaming things, anime, maybe a little music. Don't even think about it, Retro because I know what you're thinking. Oh God, not that. Anything but that.
I know what he's thinking.
It is torture.
I know what he's thinking. And also, yeah, Al, ear rape warning. Just slap that right on the screen at this part, Brett.
That's all right. I can level the audio in Audacity later.
Okay. But anyways, yeah, I think I know what you might be talking about. That certain cover that you did in one of your videos. You know what I'm talking about? Unless it's not.
Yeah, the Disturbed cover from Sound of Silence. I tried doing that, but it didn't really work out that well for the most part.
Very good message. Not hating on the video or anything. I thought that's what you were referencing, but yeah, no. So let me ask this. You know, what made you? Because I'm sure you know, like, because what kind of fan fictions did you review? Because you did like, My Little Pony.
I remember the exact ones that you did.
Yeah.
Yeah, Benjamin's been reading every single fan fiction.
No, it's not that. This I know, and I'm not going to forget.
But yeah,
Well,
tell us about that.
Well, I did start doing My Little Pony fan fictions, but I've moved on from that for a bit.
Right.
I actually have two fanfiction.net pages. One is, of course, NostalgiaCop, and the other is NYPD Fan 001.
Right.
On NYPD Fan 001, I actually have an Assassin's Creed and Naruto crossover called Assassin's Creed Great Shinobi Nations. It was based off of another fanfiction I wrote. I had permission from the author to use one of the characters inside that fanfiction. Gave me full permission, reads the story.
Like a OC or like
yes,
like a character?
and
okay.
yes, an original character.
Okay.
He gave me permission to use that character, and well, surprisingly, ever since I watched a TV show called Hawaii Five-0, I started to have a lot of OCs with the last name McGarrett, trying to pay homage to Steve McGarrett off Hawaii Five-0, but it's somewhat started to turn into some sort of obsession. I mean, for crying out loud, I bought a. I'm not even gonna touch on that subject anymore. Moving on.
Did you get a body pillow? Is that what it was?
No, not a body pillow. I got a cosplay Hawaii Five-0 badge off eBay.
Oh, that's not bad.
So just so you know, my brother actually worked on editing that show.
Yeah, as long as you didn't get a weird body pillow, that's fine. Now,
why would I get a body pillow?
I mean,
I'm not weird.
Body pillows.
Yeah.
They don't even sell those.
You want to bet?
They probably do somewhere, honestly.
Yeah.
Oh God! Don't tell me that's another Rule 34 thing.
Let me go on baddragon.com and see if I can find Hawaii Five-0 branded.
Oh God.
God, no.
Oh. Just quick PSA reminder that this is a show for grown men, made by grown men.
Or teenagers, honestly. Teenagers and or adults.
We're talking about Hawaii Five-0 body pillows.
Yeah. But what kind of because you mentioned they were like My Little Pony and stuff like that.
Well, I reviewed the fan fictions for a while, but then I
Right.
started to write them. And one of the first fan fictions I had wrote, someone liked it so much that they said it could actually be a book. But I
one of the longest pieces of literature, like ever, is actually a Smash Brothers fan fiction.
Really?
I'm
Yeah.
not kidding.
Yeah, you can look it up. It's literally the longest piece of. I don't remember what it's called.
Don't know.
You can look
Me
up.
either.
You could probably Google long ass Smash Bros fanfic and you'll find it.
Yeah. Can we get Joey, the tech guy, to look that up for us? Thanks.
Can we get Mr. Johnny off screen to look it up for us?
That implies that we have a budget.
Yeah, with our negative $1 budget. Okay, speaking of budgets, I asked this man if he was down to do this podcast tonight, and his response was, "I don't know where you live," as if we actually have a studio. And
No, I thought you were talking about doing this at your house.
What?
Look, we've talked now. To be fair, I don't think he's actually watched an episode of this podcast. But I mean, to be fair, if he did, we did mention one time that we were thinking about doing one like in person just for fun.
Yeah, we'll probably end up doing like a live, as in live on Twitch one, and a live action, as in like fake cam stuff.
Yeah, which I would actually be 100% down for.
Yeah, me too. At some point, Dylan said he would be down for it eventually.
Yeah, maybe whenever I get a good recording system going, because all I have to do is do things on my freaking phone.
Yeah.
I only got enough budget for that.
Oh, yeah, pretty much. We're also extremely broke. But
Yeah, as you can tell by my fucking shit, there it goes again. As you can tell by my lame ass takes an hour and a half to get set up recording studio.
You know, so does anybody else have any questions to ask him? I don't want to hog all the limelight, so to speak. Even though I'm kind of being the interviewer.
I got a question.
Okay.
What do you nut to? What's that all about?
Oh, all right. We're just hitting the heavy strokes. I wanted to work into that, but
no, that was a joke.
Oh.
I don't actually expect an answer to this question.
I couldn't even hear the question. Actually, I'm so confused on what's happening right now.
The question was, what do you jerk it to?
Okay, no.
The best joke question I could think of. Just
leaves the podcast, doesn't come back, reports us to the police.
Sorry, I had to go get myself.
Calls the National Guard.
Just watch. This is gonna end up as one of those freaking memes that I ended up seeing, the FBI open up memes.
Yeah.
Just watch. It's gonna end up as one of that.
Right.
This is the audio clip.
I can actually see it now. Just a random thing about this podcast going after a few minutes. Boom, boom, boom. FBI, open up! Everyone just starts shooting everywhere after the breaches go.
You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did you ever get any more criticism aside from Brett for the content that you produce? Because I never watched any of your fanfiction reviews.
Not really.
They're the type of
not
fanfiction
really.
I'm aware of.
I got criticism for criticizing him though. From other people other than him. Yeah, I didn't find out until like last semester at some point because Dylan mentioned to me, he's like, I want to go looking to see what else NostalgiaCop has done. And he put my name and NostalgiaCop into the search bar on Google, and it came out with an article written by someone who is a fan of NostalgiaCop saying that they were going to physically attack me.
What?
Dude,
wow. Okay,
like,
seriously. Oy. Okay, that seriously reminds me of an anime called Mirai and Nikki, The Future Diary.
I never seen that.
Yeah, you won't want to. It's pretty much about this one girl who kills a bunch of other girls from trying to get the guy she likes.
Now,
pretty much Yandere Simulator, but anime form.
Now, Jacob, I do have
Wait, just
one
jump through
genuine
it.
question. Are you familiar with a series called Brother Sister?
No, I am not.
Well, you see,
And I don't think I want to be interested in that.
well, you see, Jacob, it's a very simple series, really. It's about a brother and a sister, and they fuck.
How
Now,
come
I
I
know-
feel like that's Rule 34?
Now I know, you've read some pretty spicy stuff. I know you've dabbled in the My Little Pony fan fiction type stuff. Yeah, I'm sure you've seen some very interesting things. May have even written some very interesting things. But I feel like this piece of fine quality literature will entice you to produce some really, really great works for the masses to read.
Yeah,
What is that?
probably not.
Now none of us here, as far as I'm aware, of our bronies. But what is some of the weirder things that you've seen dabbling in that part of the community? Because I mean, I'm completely honest with you to say that I'm not a My Little Pony fan. I actually think the community is really cancerous. Sorry.
Well, I've recently started to get away from it because I haven't seen any episodes of the show in a while,
Right.
Same.
and
I dropped off,
I've
like,
backed
episode
off
100.
from the fan fiction portion of it for a bit,
Right.
trying to get other stuff out like gaming anime crossovers.
Right.
And just recently, I actually bought a game from GameStop. Extremely interested in it, based off the anime Sword Art Online. It's called Sword Art Online Fatal Bullet,
Ah, yeah. I'm
and
not really.
it's actually pretty interesting. In order to understand the game, you got to understand the anime, and Sword Art Online is probably one of my favorite animes of all time. Next to probably
I've been trying to hold back.
maybe the
Trying to hold
Naruto
back.
series or Dragon Ball, or maybe maybe Full Metal Alchemist when I start watching that.
Right. Now, are you saying I didn't hear this part? Were you saying that you like it more, or were you saying than those other series, or were you just saying it's also one of your favorite series, including?
It's also one of my
Okay.
favorite series, including those.
Okay. All right. I couldn't hear you.
Yeah, I have a lot of fandoms.
Yeah, I heard Dragon Ball and my eyebrow twitch. So.
Hey, I'm not talking about the crappy ass Dragon Ball GT. I'm talking about original Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Super.
Okay.
This isn't the Dragon Ball you'll find in your dad's basement. This is Dragon Ball of the new age.
Before I would also like to if you could switch that crappy with Super instead. Super's pretty bad. I actually think GT is much better. In my
Is
opinion.
Super really that bad? I haven't seen it yet.
It's Star Adventure is the only good anime.
Ben.
I mean, the only thing that ends up coming out of it is Goku getting a new form, which happens every single freaking series.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, in Super, all that came out of that.
Well, that and a bunch of random nonsense.
Exactly. But I mean, like I said, my whole thing with GT though is that it felt like, comparing it to Super, it feels like a much more Dragon Ball-ish show. Because Super to me was way more like Saturday morning cartoon than Dragon Ball needed to be, in my opinion. While
It ain't
GT to
Dragon
me,
Ball unless they repeat the same 4 frames of animation at least 20 times in a row.
I'll take that.
Yeah, but according to the actual creators of the show, GT isn't canon within the Dragon Ball series.
Right, but canon doesn't necessarily mean it's bad or it's better.
Everyone
Also, I
just
just
says
wanted-
GT's crappy because it's not based on the actual canon.
I mean, it wasn't original. It was, based on obviously it was based on Dragon Ball, but it didn't have a source material to go off of. But the thing is, though, I don't necessarily think it's bad. I actually think in terms of a lot of different aspects, it's better than Super. Because I mean, one interesting that I thought they did was that pretty much the first part of the series is them going planet to planet trying to get the Dragon Balls, and like you see parts of like this universe that we've never seen before. While in Super, it was just, all right, here's 2 movies that you've already seen, rehashed into episodes of the show. Here's a tournament. Here's one interesting villain, and there's another tournament. While in GT, you got all these different planets. Some of them are really action heavy. Some of them are just, hey, look at this cool planet, you know. And here's a little background on me. I like the original more than Z because I like the whole like adventure aspect more than just the constant fighting. And when there is fighting, I feel like it was built up a lot more in Dragon Ball than it was in Z. But GT to me is better for fans that like that aspect of Dragon Ball because literally the first part of GT, the first season is like essentially like more like Dragon Ball than Z. You get what I mean by that? Like a lot more focused on the adventure and stuff like that. And that's what I like. I like seeing cool parts of the universe and stuff, and that whole, you know, space and all that. That was really interesting to me.
You might be interested in Cowboy Bebop then.
Yeah, I've seen it. It's pretty good.
Yeah, I honestly think that
gained back a little bit of respect.
I actually think the theme song to Cowboy Bebop is actually a pretty badass.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
I do have to say this though, SEO is trash.
Yeah, I agree with Ben. It's pretty bad.
All right.
Brett, do you have anything to add? I know you don't really watch. Well, I know. Anime tends to get brought up, and then it's usually just me and Dylan ranting on about it.
Yeah, I'm not really
Now we
that
have
big of a
3 people.
anime guy.
Right.
I mean, it's cool to have a discussion about it. I don't mind it, but like, I don't watch enough anime to really be able to truly weigh in on those sorts of things.
Right. I did tell you though, next time if we ever hang out in person, you, me, and Dylan, I'm going to show you one of the Gundam series. I think you'd actually enjoy it.
Yeah, I've been meaning to get around to that, except I started watching The Flash, and that's alright.
Yeah, Flash is pretty good. I like
a little overcomplicated, if I must say, around the season 3, but yeah.
Right.
It's pretty campy, but I think that's what's kind of going for.
So, Infinity War, who's seen it?
Not me.
Not
Don't
me.
spoil it.
Nope.
Rip.
Han Solo dies in Infinity War. I'm
man.
from the original joke. Nah, I'm just kidding.
Rip. I'm the only one here that darn.
Requiescat in pace.
Super good show, or super good movie. I don't know why it's a show.
I mean, we
All
were
right, here's
talking about
an
anime.
Infinity War spoiler for you. The bad guy gets beat. Ooh.
That happens in every Avengers movie.
Ooh.
And that's why it was a joke.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say it.
Nice job catching the joke.
Woo.
All right, enough dogging on the guest.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, I'm
believe
not
me, I
finished
get
with the video
worse.
chat. Yeah,
Oh, wait.
be educated. Get you some JoJo in your life.
Oh yeah, JoJo's great. As someone
Yeah,
who
JoJo's pretty good.
yeah.
Yeah, I actually I'm watching it actually off Crunchyroll. I'm at season 2 right now.
Crunchyroll.
That's,
No,
that's a
yeah.
good one.
Did
Yeah.
you just say
Part 2 is good.
Crunchyroll? You know you can't
Yes.
Crunchyroll ahead. What have you done?
Hi.
Oh, for crying out loud, lighten up a bit. That is actually pretty interesting. I mean,
podcast
it
sponsored
has
by
the
Crunchyroll.
bunch of the original animes, and it's in Japanese, the original language for it, subtitled
Million.
and dubbed.
The entirety of the Japanese government. Sorry, I was just saying on sponsors. I'm not actually sponsored by those people. But the Japanese
They were
government.
sponsored by the Japanese government.
Yeah.
Oh man, if only.
As he was saying what he was saying, I was saying very quietly. Crunchyroll. Books milk.
Oh my gosh. But anyways, I've actually tried to get the first part of the theme down, the first theme. I've actually tried getting that down, but so far all I've been able to get was the thing that made it canon in the first place.
Right.
the actual chorus of it. I'm